The words fell from Sergeant Marcus Thorne's mouth, slow and thick, like honey laced with poison. Just because I said so. The air was heavy, shimmering with the heat rising from the asphalt, and the illegal roadblock across the dusty country road felt like a trap. Judge Eleanor Vance felt a familiar knot of cold rage tighten in her stomach. On the surface, she was just Eleanor Reed, a weary artist on her way to visit her ailing mother. But inside, she was the honorable federal judge whose very name commanded respect and fear. Thorne circled her car, his baton idly tapping against the fender. "You weren't speeding. My lights are working perfectly," Eleanor said calmly, her voice steady. "What is the legal reason for this stop?" He spat on the ground. "The reason is I don't like questions in my county." Eleanor handed over her license and registration. He barely glanced at them. He wasn't interested in paperwork. He was interested in her. "Where you headed, Eleanor?" he drawled. "I already told you. To see my mother," she replied. "You look twitchy, like you're carrying something." "Drugs." "Booze," he sneered. The Fourth Amendment echoed in her mind, but Eleanor just shook her head. "I have nothing illegal, Sergeant." "You all say that." Out of the car, Eleanor hesitated. She could end this charade in an instant. A flash of her real ID, the golden seal of authority, and he would crumble. His career would be over. But if this was how he treated her, a woman with power, how did he treat those without? She stepped out into the oppressive heat, which hit her like a physical blow. Thorne barked for her to put her hands on the roof of the car. She complied, feeling his greasy gaze on her back as he rummaged through her belongings. Lipstick, a wallet, a paperback, nothing. Then he found an empty water bottle. "What's this?" "Smells like alcohol." "It's water. I bought it an hour ago." "I'll decide that," he snapped, furious at her composure. "Open container." "That's a serious violation. You're coming to the station." The lie was brazen, and her inner prosecutor noted it with cold precision. "You can test it here. I don't have to do anything for you." "Hands behind your back." The cuffs clicked tight. Cicadas buzzed like a mocking jury as he shoved her toward his patrol car, shouting to a passing farmer, another drunk driver. "We don't sleep here." The humiliation was deliberate, a public spectacle. Eleanor bowed her head, but only to remember, patrol car 212, cracked windshield, faded flag sticker. Every detail was evidence for the trial he didn't know was coming. Inside the car, Thorne radioed in. "Got one. White woman. DUI. Taking her in." White woman. So it wasn't just about race. It was about unchecked power, the power to humiliate, invent charges, and cage anyone unlucky enough to cross his path. As they drove off, dust swallowed her abandoned sedan. Her sister's wedding would proceed without her. Instead of champagne and music, there would be mug shots and inky fingerprints. Yet beneath the outrage, a sharper feeling stirred. Anticipation. She had judged from the bench for years. Now, she would see the rot from the ground up. And when the reckoning came, the whole state would tremble. The Westbridge station reeked of stale coffee, sweat, and authority. "This way, beautiful," Thorne sneered, shoving her toward the front desk. Officer Hank, a doughy man with a bloated face, looked up from his crossword puzzle. "Another one, Dave? What's this?" "DUI. Resisting arrest," Thorne declared, a blatant lie. He tossed her ID onto the counter. "I'm entitled to one phone call," Eleanor said evenly. Thorne leaned close, his breath sour. "Listen, honey, I'm the law here. You'll call when I say you can." They fingerprinted her, flashed a camera in her face. She stared into the lens, her eyes cold as steel, not pleading, not afraid, but promising. The cell door shrieked open. Thorne shoved her inside. "Welcome to the Westbridge Hotel. No amenities, but the company's great." The stench was immediate. Urine, mold, despair. She stood listening. Her years of judicial training sharpened her senses. Every footstep, every voice became a piece of evidence. An hour later, a commotion stirred outside. Another door slammed. "I didn't do anything. I was just waiting for the bus," a young voice protested. "Sure, kid," Hank's lazy drawl replied. "Mr. Peterson doesn't like people like you near his store. Scares his customers." It's daytime. I work on Mr. Adams's farm. He'll confirm it. Shut it, kid. Talk more, and I'll add attempted robbery. Sit tight. The cell clanged shut. Through the concrete wall, Eleanor heard muffled sobs. Latino, by his accent. A farmhand arrested for existing in the wrong place. Her mind clicked into motion. Unlawful detention. No probable cause. Racial bias. Officer Hank. Victim, young male. Worked for Adams. Another entry for her invisible case file. Thorne thought he had locked away a trembling woman. Instead, he had delivered a judge into the heart of his rotten system. She was collecting every crack, every lie, every act of cruelty. The system believed her powerless here, but she knew the truth. Every humiliation, every unlawful arrest was fuel for the storm she would unleash. And Westbridge's officers, drunk on unchecked authority, had no idea that the quiet woman in their cell was preparing the verdict. Around 3 p.m., Eleanor heard footsteps pause outside her cell. "Listen, Mike," a nervous young voice said. It was the officer who had stood by Thorne on the road. She wasn't drunk, calm as a nun, but Thorne slapped her with resisting arrest. "What's it to you, Billy?" another voice answered, weary and cynical. "The sergeant said it happened, so it happened. Write it down." She cursed, resisted, refused to test. "That's the report." But she didn't. Billy insisted. "Evidence in Westbridge isn't found. It's made. Might cut him off. You want Thorne against you? He's tied to the prosecutor. Do your job. Take your paycheck and keep quiet." Their steps receded. Eleanor's spine tingled. Confirmation. Fabricated evidence. Collusion. Intimidation. A system, not just a rogue man. Billy was the weak link, still human enough to doubt. He could be turned. She began a mental list. Sergeant Marcus Thorne. Abuse of power, unlawful detention, racial targeting, falsified charges. Officer Hank. Accomplice, bias-driven arrests. Officer Mike. Complicit, orders falsification. Officer Billy. Pressured witness. Prosecutor's office. Protection network. This was no longer personal. It was the case of her life, built from the inside of a filthy cell. Hours later, new voices echoed. 2 black teenagers were shoved into the opposite cell. "Wallet went missing," Hank barked. "You two were the post office. Looks bad." "We didn't steal anything," one boy pleaded. Thorne appeared, eyes gleaming. "Hand it over, or you'll rot until you're gray." "We don't have it." "Then you dumped it," Thorne sneered. "Hank, book him for robbery. Say they confessed. We'll find witnesses." The boys were dragged away, crying. Eleanor's heart clenched. This wasn't policing. It was manufacturing criminals, destroying futures to feed egos and statistics. Her own arrest felt like fate. No outside inspection from Washington would ever pierce this wall of silence. But she was inside. She was seeing the machine grind lives into dust. Sitting on the cold bunk, she looked at the red cuff marks on her wrists. They were no longer bruises. They were proof, a brand that gave her the right to judge, not as a distant authority, but as one who had endured as dusk bled into night. She sat motionless, her mind as sharp as a blade. She thought not of her sister's wedding, but of the farmhand next door, the teenagers across the hall, and the countless others swallowed by this pit. She vowed that every tear, every lie, every cry would become evidence. Morning light seeped through the barred window. Eleanor braced herself. Today, they would have to grant her a phone call, and that call would be the trigger. The cell door groaned open. Thorne swaggered in, Hank trailing behind with a tray of gray mush and water. "Breakfast in bed, princess," Thorne grinned. "Getting used to your new apartment? You'll be here a long time." Eleanor lifted her head. She hadn't slept, but her eyes burned with cold clarity. She stayed silent. "What? No lectures about rights?" Thorne taunted. "Finally learned where rights end and my power begins." He gestured at Hank, who slid the tray through the bars. "Eat up. We'll talk later. I expect a confession." "A confession of what?" she asked evenly. "Oh, we'll pick something. Drugs, theft. Take your pick. If you're stubborn, we'll add assaulting an officer. Hank will back me, won't you?" Hank nodded, his eyes lowered. "By law, I am entitled to one phone call," Eleanor said. Thorne leaned in close, the stench of coffee and tobacco clinging to him. "Law, sweetheart. I'm the law here. You'll call when you sign what I tell you to. Until then, sit tight." He turned to leave. "Sergeant." Eleanor's voice stopped him, quiet, sharp as glass. "You're making a very big mistake." For the first time, Thorne faltered. The smirk slipped, replaced by a flicker of something he had not expected: doubt. And in that flicker, Eleanor knew the downfall of Westbridge had already begun.